Richard, what's the real problem with Qatar?
The problem with Qatar is its continued insistence on providing funding and support for terrorist and extremist activities. The U.S. Treasury Department has stated that Qatar provides a permissive jurisdiction for the funding of known designated terrorist groups. On top of this, we have the insistence of the government refusing to cooperate with the global regime, be it the UN Security Council, the US Treasury Department, and by relationship, the EU counterterrorism regime as well. Other states in the region are working to cooperate with others and to take action themselves. Qatar just refuses to, and that is the biggest problem.
Why should Europe be worried about this?
Because the funding and support of terrorism is a global issue. We all have a vested interest in it. It doesn't matter if the terrorism attack is taking place in the Middle East, Africa, or Europe. Europe is facing a lot of difficulties with terrorist attacks. Many of this is fueled by ideology and extremist views that are coming from the region. For example, with Al Jazeera Arabic, it provides a platform for individuals to glorify and celebrate terrorist and extremist views. Very much in contrary, I would argue, with a lot of the hate speech laws here in Europe. So these sources of information, these activities are having their base in Qatar, and it's having an impact upon European societies.
Is there empirical research that shows this to be true?
At the moment, there is some research out there. We've put together some factual documents that at least provides the very evidence. As ever in these situations, you do struggle to show a direct and a clear and consistent link. But to go back to your original question, when we have empirical evidence of Qatar providing funding to al-Qaeda groups around the world, yes, it does exist.
Now, is this a government or an individual or an NGO problem?
This is a government problem because the evidence shows that the government has been directly involved through foundations, through entities. It is also a government problem because governments are required to put in regimes to prevent this. You cannot allow your banking system to be used as a direct line of funding terrorists. You cannot allow your citizens to operate in your territory fundraising for known designated terrorist groups. So it is a government problem first and foremost.
Do you think Qatar will bow to pressure and come in line with international norms?
I'm not saying that as a bowing to pressure. I'm just saying it as coming into line with international norms. Qatar, as with all states, has to and must come in line with the international norms and cooperate with the international system and bringing our efforts together to end this funding and support.
But why is Qatar doing this? What's their motivation?
Don't know. Qatar has actively chosen what's called an independent foreign policy, but that's not unusual. And you can have an independent foreign policy, nobody's going to question that. It is hard to figure out, and we've not been able to come up with a clear answer on why Qatar is using its foreign policy to directly support terrorist activity. There doesn't seem to be any real explanation for it, which makes the problem even more difficult to understand as to why would they pursue this. Why would they fund and support these terrorist organizations that are causing death and destruction around the world? That's the big question Qatar has to answer.
Do you see a resolution soon?
Hope for a resolution soon. But as we said earlier, the basis of a resolution is just Qatar coming in line with global international norms and behavior. That's Qatar's decision. Hopefully they will act upon it soon.